Behind the Line Extra for your Saturday, December 7th, 2019. I'm your host, KC. Follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. Leave the 5-star rating on iTunes. I'm going to get into our NFL plays for tomorrow in just a second. I wanted to lead today with the Dallas Cowboys, who were embarrassed for a third straight week Thursday night. But I honestly don't know what I can say that I haven't already said about this team. I told you before the season that this team was not going to make the playoffs. When they started the season 3-0 with this so-called high-powered offense, and the media was hyping them up as an NFC powerhouse, I told you not to buy into the hype. That beating up on the Giants, Redskins, and Dolphins meant nothing. The real test would start in New Orleans, a game in which they lost. Since starting the season 3-0, the Cowboys are 3-7. The 3 wins came against the Eagles, Giants, and the Lions without Matt Stafford. I say all the time that statistics can be misleading. The Dallas Cowboys are the perfect example of that. The Cowboys had the number 1 ranked offense in the league to go along with a top 10 defense. Statistically, Dak Prescott is having the best season of his career. Yet it's not translating on the field. You would think that with the number 1 offense and a top 10 defense, this team would be sitting at 10-3, 11-2, at minimum 9-4. Yet they're 6-7. I talked yesterday in the NFL Coaches on the Hot Seat segment about Jason Garrett failing to make in-game adjustments. The past 2 games have been prime examples of this. Each of the last 2 games on the Cowboys' early drives where the plays are scripted, the Cowboys are pounding the ball with Ezekiel Elliott, opening up the play-action pass, and they're finding their way into the end zone. After that, the wheels fall off. I saw a stat Thursday night. I can't remember exactly what it was, but the gist of it was after the first quarter, Ezekiel Elliott had carried the ball less than 10 times between 2nd and 4th down. Why? Why is the ball not in the hands of the best player on your team? Go back in past seasons when the Cowboys were making the playoffs. This offense was run through Zeke. The philosophy in Dallas has changed. This is now a pass-first offense. The problem with that is you have a mediocre quarterback. You paid Zeke all this money in the offseason, and he has career lows in yards and attempts, if you adjust the stats from 2017 when he was suspended for 6 games. Skip Bayless Friday morning said the Cowboys would go as far as Dak's arm would take them. That's the problem. Dak's arm has taken them to 6-7, and they're at high risk of missing the playoffs in the worst division in the NFL. This all falls on the shoulders of Jason Garrett. Instead of recognizing the problems, instead of recognizing that when Dallas had success, it was through the running game, he has pushed forward with his pass-first philosophy. His stubbornness is going to cost him his job. Dak has more passing attempts through 13 weeks than every season besides last season. And he will surpass last season next week against the Rams. It's not working. It hasn't worked all season. And it seems that no one on the Cowboys coaching staff realizes the problem. They come out every week with the same game plan. And every week they come out with an L. This team's not making the playoffs. They aren't beating the Rams. They aren't going on the road and beating the Eagles. Hell, right now, I don't even know if this team can beat the Redskins in Week 17. The final score Thursday night was much closer than it should have been. Dallas got their ass kicked. Like most games this season, most of their yards and points were scored in garbage time when the defense was let up. If you watched that game, you saw a team that has essentially quit on their coach. There is a glaring lack of leadership in Dallas. Example, Michael Bennett joined this team on October 24th. He's been in Dallas for 6 weeks. He's leading the pregame huddle. He's giving the pregame speech. He's the guy chewing the team out in the locker room after a loss. You've got guys that have been on this team for years, yet Michael Bennett is the leader. Let me tell you, do you think that Michael Bennett would come to New Orleans and take over the pregame huddle from Drew Brees and Demario Davis? No. This is my point with the Cowboys. You don't have leaders on this team. A guy who's been there for 6 weeks is the leader. That is the problem. I would say it's over for the Dallas Cowboys, but in order to say that, it would have had to have been started in the first place. This team wasn't making the playoffs starting in week 1. This so-called top 10 defense gave up 231 passing yards to Mitchell Trubisky. As bad as Jason Garrett is, firing him isn't going to solve the problems in Dallas. Not all of them anyway. The problem begins at the top. It's the same problem they've had for 3 decades. And it will continue to be the same problem until he's 6 feet under. Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones has always been the problem in Dallas. If not for Jimmy Johnson, the Cowboys wouldn't have been America's team in the 90s. Jerry Jones always has to have his hands in the mix. He's the face of this team. He's the general manager. He undermines his head coaches publicly. If the Cowboys are good, which is rare the past 25 years, Jerry gets the credit. If they suck, which is the norm, the blame falls on the players and the coaches. He couldn't even stay out of the way when he had Bill Parcells, one of the best coaches in NFL history. A guy who turned your franchise around after your late 90s collapse. Parcells took the Cowboys to the playoffs with Quincy fucking Carter starting at quarterback. But Jerry Jones couldn't stay out of the way. Bill Parcells eventually had enough. He happily retired. The point is, until Jerry Jones relinquishes his control, which is not going to happen, the Cowboys are going to continue to be a losing team. All right, I know the New Orleans Pelicans are irrelevant, but this is my podcast, so I'm going to talk about them for a second anyway. Over the summer, we in New Orleans were heavily sold on this team. Once Zion Williamson was drafted, the Pelicans sold more season tickets than they ever have since this team moved back to New Orleans in 2002. David Griffin said this team was going to be exciting, even a potential playoff contender. We've got a new medical staff. We upgraded the training facility. We signed good veterans in J.J. Redick and Derek Favors. Drew Holiday is going to be the leader of this team. This is Drew's team. It's going to be an exciting year for Pelicans basketball. That's what we heard all summer. After all that hype, through 22 games, we've been served a heaping pile of shit in New Orleans. This is typical Pelicans basketball. Actually, this could be even worse than past seasons. When they decided to bring back Alvin Gentry, I was skeptical. I understood the reasoning behind it on a personal level. Gentry was fantastic as the face of the franchise last season during the Anthony Davis debacle. But in terms of coaching, Gentry's a bum. He's a proven loser. What bothers me the most about this team is that they play with little to no effort. Thursday night against Phoenix, the Suns had 19 offensive rebounds compared to 6 for New Orleans. That is 100% lack of effort. And that falls on Alvin Gentry. Not only do his teams not play defense, they don't rebound, they don't chase loose balls. Gentry's always been known for his fast-paced offensive system. Why the fuck is Lonzo Ball jacking up 9 to 10 threes? Most coming early in the shot clock. Ball's one of the worst three-point shooting guards in the NBA. It falls on Gentry. I've yet to see him chastise Lonzo Ball for his poor shot selection. This team has lost 7 straight games. They are an eyesore to watch. We were sold on a fun, exciting season watching this young team develop and grow. Instead, we're getting boring and frustrating basketball. Night after night, the Pelicans get blown out. And Zion Williamson's not going to save this team. The 6 to 8 week timetable for his return's been extended. And even when he does come back, they're saying that they're going to use load management and watch his minutes. He won't be playing in back-to-backs. The kid's 19 years old, and we're talking about load management already. We were duped in New Orleans, but so were the networks. The Pelicans have 30 nationally televised games this season, most in franchise history. I got to give it to David Griffin. The guy's one hell of a salesman. The bottom line is Alvin Gentry has got to go. And I'm not talking about he's got to go at the end of the season. I'm talking about right now. There's no reason for him to coach this team the rest of the season. He has a career coaching record of 486 and 569. In New Orleans, he's 151 and 199. One winning season, one playoff appearance since he started in 2015-2016. On what planet does that type of production get you to keep your job in the NBA? This is what we fired Monty Williams for. All right, let's get to our NFL plays for Sunday. It has been a great regular season in the NFL. The Sunday and Monday night games have been phenomenal. Even the Thursday night games, which in years past have been boring, have been great this year. The NFL has been so great that it's having a negative impact on the NBA. NBA ratings are down double digits early in the season. I'm a diehard NBA guy. I love the NBA. But the NFL is taking up all of my sports time. I don't really have time to watch a lot of the NBA right now. Thursdays, Sundays, and Mondays are consumed with the NFL. I think the NBA ratings will bounce back after the NFL season ends, but right now the NBA is struggling out of the gate. All right, let's get to the picks for the weekend. First up, Broncos at Texans, current line Houston -9. I think this is a classic letdown spot for the Texans after their big win over New England last week. And they've got a huge game coming up next week against the Titans that could decide the AFC South. I said it a week or two ago, Denver's the best bad team in the NFL. Don't let the 4-8 record fool you. The Broncos have one of the best defenses in the league. They rank 8th in points, 9th in total yards. More importantly, they're the 5th best passing defense. I wasn't necessarily overtly impressed with Drew Lock last week in his first career start. But he did lead his team to a comeback win against the Chargers. For all the hype surrounding Deshaun Watson, you would think that this Houston offense was explosive. But that's not the case. According to Football Outsiders, the Texans are 15th in DVOA, ranking behind the Browns, and they're 5 spots behind the Eagles. So this isn't a high-octane offense in Houston. And they're going up against a top 10 defense with Denver. And you're expecting me to swallow 9 points. It's just too many. I like the Texans to win, but it's going to be close, taking Denver +9. 49ers at Saints, current line New Orleans -2.5. I've said that the past 2 or 3 weeks that San Francisco would collapse and go 0-2 through this brutal 2-week stretch where they play Baltimore and New Orleans on the road. Not backing off. It's been a tough stretch for the Niners. You got Green Bay at home, Baltimore on the road. Now they got to come to New Orleans to play a Saints team that's coming off a 9 days rest. This game's going to be a defensive struggle. I think the Saints come in with a game plan to shut down the 49er running game and make Jimmy G beat them. Sure, this is the plan that every 49er opponent has, but New Orleans has the defensive personnel to do so. The Saints have the 3rd best run defense in the league, giving up under 90 yards a game on the ground. We all know the Saints are a different team at home. It's tough to go into the Superdome and come out with a win. This will be the toughest environment that Jimmy G has had to play in all season. And it'll be the first time all season where winning the game will fall on his shoulders. It's just hard to bet against Drew Brees and Sean Payton in this spot. They're more proven. they've shown over the last 14, 15 years that they show up in these big games, especially at home. Not to mention the fact that New Orleans can exploit the weakness of the San Francisco defense. 49ers rank 22nd in run defense. They've given up over 100 yards rushing in 9 straight games. I think the Saints used the run game to immobilize the 49ers pass rush. I'm going to swallow the small number, taking New Orleans minus 2.5. All right, next game up. Ravens at Bills. Current line, Baltimore minus 6. Lamar Jackson has the Baltimore Ravens on a roll. They've won 8 straight. They're dominating their opponents, winning by an average of 19 points over the past couple of months. That being said, I like the Bills here as a home dog. I've been high on this Buffalo defense all year. They get after the quarterback. They've got 15 sacks and 29 quarterback hits in the past 3 games alone. The only thing the Bills have been waiting for is the development of Josh Allen, who has caught fire since October. Allen struggled early in the season with turnovers. No longer the case. The Bills only had 3 turnovers in their last 8 games. Consequently, they're 6-2 during that stretch. Not to mention the fact that Baltimore has been through a stretch of games against physical defenses. Lamar Jackson, as prolific of a runner as he is, has been taking a beating over the past 4 and 5 weeks. I mentioned earlier this week about how long Jackson can continue to take a pounding every week and remain effective. Now he's facing his 3rd physical defense in the past 6 weeks. This Buffalo defense is only allowing 13 points a game over the past 5 games. I like the Bills to keep it close, taking Buffalo plus 6. Titans at Raiders, current line Tennessee minus 3. I'm not big on road favorites, but these are 2 teams heading in opposite directions. Oakland has been god-awful the past 2 weeks. Blown out twice while only managing to score 12 points over those 2 games. Tennessee is 5-1 since Ryan Tannehill has taken over for Marcus Mariota. The Titans are averaging nearly 30 points a game during that stretch. Running back Derrick Henry has been lighting it up the second half of the season. He's gotten almost 500 yards and 6 touchdowns in his last 3 games. I mentioned a few weeks ago when the Raiders were surging that Oakland didn't have a playoff caliber defense. We've seen that defense exposed the past couple of weeks. This secondary in Oakland is awful, and David Carr and the offense haven't helped with 7 turnovers the last 3 weeks. That being said, the Raiders are playing better at home. They're 5-1 straight up, 4-2 against the number this season when playing at home. Their season is on the line Sunday afternoon. They lose this game, they're pretty much eliminated from playoff contention. But I still like Tennessee in this spot, taking Tennessee minus 3. Last game, Chiefs at Patriots, current line New England minus 3. The weakness of this Kansas City team is their defense. Fortunately for Andy Reid, Tom Brady is no longer exploiting weak defenses. We have never seen this level of struggle on the offensive side in Tom Brady's career. Blown out by the Ravens, blown out last week by Houston. The final score wasn't indicative of how badly the Patriots played for most of that game. Tom Brady was 7 of 19 with 82 yards and an interception going into halftime. Most of the yards and points were scored in garbage time. Statistically, New England still has the number 1 defense, but they've struggled against mobile quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes is one of the best in the league at rolling out of the pocket and making big plays downfield. I don't think this is going to be a shootout like last year's AFC Championship game, but I think the Chiefs have more firepower offensively. I like Kansas City to win, but I'll take the free points, taking Kansas City plus 3. All right, to recap, we're on Denver plus 9, Saints minus 2.5, Bills plus 6, Titans minus 3, Chiefs plus 3. All right, that's all for today. I'll be back Tuesday to recap the weekend. Hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. Leave the 5-star rating on iTunes. Enjoy your weekend. I will see you Tuesday morning.